This time we've come to Longford Coachworks on the south coast near Bournemouth to meet proprietor Dan and, you might be surprised to hear, to pick up some wings. Whilst we were there, we learnt about some of the extraordinary skills and equipment used in the restoration of classic and vintage car bodies, found out just how far-sighted Lagonda designers really were,
Anticipated McDonald's.
and met Dan's supervisor, Billy. Dan's something of an expert with Lagondas, and he's worked on a number of them for clients over the years. In his workshop, as well as building the custom body panels we see him working on today, he also builds the ash or metal framing that goes underneath. Right next door to Dan is cabinet maker Quentin Mayo, who also builds ash frames for Dan. You'll see examples of both their work in today's video. Keen watchers of the channel will know that Celia currently has cycle wings, but those are not the originals. Early photos of Celia show her with her magnificent flowing original wings, and I suspect these must have rusted away at some point, only to be replaced by my father. And how do I know that they were fitted during Celia's 1960 jalopy let it all hang out phase? Well, they were fixed on with angle iron. So you'll understand that I was delighted to come across these wings, which had come from a saloon on the same chassis, which Dan was rebuilding into a T7 body for a client. But there was a snag. Nobody knew exactly how the mechanism for the side window worked. So, when Dan saw my videos of Celia, he asked me to bring the windows with me so he could take a look.
And then when the door's closed, it can be tensioned to stop that moving around. And then when you open the door, you'll pop that, remove the tension, and then that'll allow it to clear the windscreen. So that one is, in particular, is quite cool. I guess it's got an extra slot in it.
I think there's a flap that comes down.
Yeah, so that mustn't be
got a
here.
droop.
And those hooks I've not seen before must hook on the hood frame. And it's got that flap on as well. And that would be your signalling flap, if you like. So, you know, to whatever, to signal for a turn. And that's
Of course
interesting.
you'd have to, wouldn't you, to put your arm out?
Yeah.
I
So
thought about that.
that's what that bit's for.
I took the opportunity to ask Dan a little about how he got started in this specialist and very skilled work.
I started working at Aston Martin Specialist. We just did the substructures. We didn't do the nice, pretty outer bodywork. So I moved down to the south coast about nearly 20 years ago to try and learn that trade. And I've been fortunate enough to work on some amazing cars, some Grand Prix cars, Bugatti, Alfa Romeo, and now I get to do it myself and build a Lagonda very similar to yours. Delage, Delahaye, all sorts of cars.
Should I do a bit of wheeling first?
Yes, by all means.
And then we'll talk about what it is.
Yeah.
So I'm largely crushing the weld here and then getting the shape back a little bit. I've gas welded this together. It's obviously the new wheel arches for this Bristol. There's the original wheel arch has previously been cut out by the company I'm doing the work for. And then from that I've taken a pattern. So there's the inner section there and then an outer band. I've shrank both these edges down and shaped them lightly in the wheel. And then I've just ran a gas weld through there.
Nice.
And then still, that's got to be flat, which hopefully you can see. That rivets to the chassis. And then I've just been running it through the wheel to crush the weld. And also just get a nice even radius. So basically I'm not really doing a lot of shaping here, I'm just evening it out. If I put more pressure on, I will be stretching the wheel up. I'm just kind of sharing the shape out. There's not a lot of shape, not a lot of pressure.
And the shape that goes in is in the bottom wheel, is it?
Yeah, so it's got a high crown, lower wheel on.
Oh yes, I see.
So yeah, that's the size of the radius, and yeah, so the more pressure I put on, the more it'll stretch the metal in that very small point. But I've already got the shape now. I've just smoothed it up. You need to crush the weld a little bit to work hard on the weld, which gets annealed and goes soft when you weld it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So yeah, that's why you crush the weld. And yeah, that's it. That'll be riveted in place, obviously be painted. I'll probably panel bond it as well. It'll just future-proof it.
And this is a Bristol, you said?
Yeah, Bristol 401.
With its Italian styling, the Bristol 401 was an astonishingly good-looking car, the spiritual home of the compound curve. Famously, it had a drag coefficient of just 0.36, which was remarkable for the time and is still pretty respectable now.
Oh,
This
yes,
car had
yes.
sat in the field for quite a long time and lost its original engine and gearbox. We've also had to replace the lower windscreen section, and I'll be probably replacing this entire wing, and then it needs a little repair on the front end as well.
And you'll need to make the wing, presumably.
Yes, we might have access to an original book, and then that is roughed out for, that's the wheel arch repair section, just roughed out. Wow. So that'll be going in there. And then most of the work at the moment, that's the rear of the wheel arch. That's a kit form of the rear inner panel work.
Oh, okay.
So which will be getting replaced. If you go and have a look in the rear end as well, you'll see what we're doing. We fitted the bumper last thing yesterday, so it's a bit of a tight fit. There is quite a bit of this, which just doesn't exist anymore as well. So that's the spare wheel well, which will hang from there. Yeah. But as you can see, there's a big load of nothing there. So
It's a bit frilly and...
Yeah. So a little bit of working out there, reverse engineering.
Interesting. All this old equipment you've got, this very, very specialist. So how did you come by it? Have you collected it over years? Have you been rooting about in farmyards?
A friend of mine retired last year, so I bought a couple of things off him. I've driven to Norfolk for a wheeling machine. I got this one from Liverpool. And the far one over there happened to be for sale just around the corner. I couldn't say no. Yeah, so I mean that at the moment is set up as a press brake. So it's got a V block and the corresponding V tool on the top. I was just shaping some top hat sections for that Bristol, and I couldn't get in for the last bend with my folder, so I finished them off on that. And then I've got a variety of tooling for that. I've had louver tooling made as needed. So like for your car, I've got the tooling for that.
It's just absolutely lovely. And then at the top end there, you've got a folding machine, have you there?
Yeah, it's a folding machine, and then there's an Eckhold power shrinker that bonnet side's leaning up against. So it was the Eckhold I used for the wheel arches, where I brought that edge over a little bit.
Oh, sorry. Folly.
So I shrank this edge here, and it pulls it down, and then I smoothed out that area in the wheel, but that's on the Eckhold, which is a handy bit of kit. The Pullmax. This is not a power hammer, it's a reciprocating hammer. It's not designed for contact, but I made them for a previous job. This is one of the sort of test pieces. The guy wanted 3 skylights for his Austin 7, so I made these out of brass, and I made the male and female tooling, which mounts in there, and I had this held in a piece of brass, which also a piece of wood, which formed the stop, and I had a stop on the back, and that was just ran through. And then I can form intricate shapes like that.
That's amazing.
Just by making you make the tooling for that. But you can also do louvers on this. It's good for louvers that are, if they're different sizes, it's quite quick to do them. That blue car in the middle, that's got staggered louvers. They get longer as they go back.
Ah, right, yes. Gosh. Is that another Lagonda?
That's a rapier, Lagonda rapier in the middle, and then a Delage on the left.
It's the ugly eyes that always give Lagondas away.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a better word for it than ugly eyes.
In pride of place, in the middle of the workshop, was Dan's welding equipment, and he explained a little bit about the different types of welding and gave me a demonstration of oxyacetylene welding, which is the technique he uses most often.
So, just using a flame, a mixture of oxygen and acetylene to melt the metal, basically.
And is that how it was done back in the day?
Yeah, it would have been done, yeah. They had TIG at the time. I mean, there's some people use TIG all the time now and will only use TIG. I quite like oxyacetylene, though. So, that's traditional skill. I would try and use that.
What difference does it make for you in practice if you use a TIG welder or an oxyacetylene?
Downside of gas welding, aluminium, is you've got to use a corrosive flux. So you've got to be very careful and make sure you clean off the flux. So I wash it off with water initially and then wire brush it to make sure you get any trace of it off. But you get a nice soft malleable weld. That's
so it's a bit more resilient and perhaps got a little bit more sort of strength in flex, if you like.
Gas welding.
Yeah.
Got a high crown low wheel in, and I've wire brushed the area, which has already been washed to remove the flux. The wire brush is just an additional check. You can see there, perhaps, I've already crushed that weld. which is going to work hard in the weld. And then there, the weld is still soft. I'm pushing it through. Doesn't take much because obviously it's aluminium, it's been annealed. This is just bringing a bit of strength back to it. And then that's half of it straight off the weld. And then that half there has been brushed. So this is how I made an inner stone guard on a car last week. I wouldn't always weld without filler rod. It works well sometimes. Generally on a flatter surface I'll use filler rod. But whenever you do a weld, you're always going to do a weld in the middle of a radius. Each side, each curve in the panel gives the panel some rigidity, and then it's easier to dress it out as well.
And so, it's a huge thank you to Dan for showing me around his workshop and for explaining so much about fascinating and very detailed work he does. Tea and a snack didn't go amiss either. See you next time!